Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. I'm Adam Steele, and this is the Hop Pole Podcast, your weekly source of guitar news, tech news, nerdery, and special guests as of recently. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you the one and only Emily Harris from Get Offset. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. I literally asked you how you were 20 seconds ago, but for the pleasantries on camera, I thought it was worth saying, just so it didn't sound like it was like,
That's
so
fine.
on we go.
I mean, I'm definitely the only Emily Harris of the Get Offset podcast, but I'm far from the only Emily Harris in the world, as your Discord server pointed out. I think they had a little bit of confusion.
Yes, the folks on my Discord can be they have a funny sense of humor. Which, that's probably why we all get on so well, as I have a rather odd sense of humor. But yes, coming up tonight, we're going to talk about Emily and the Get Offset and what you do, because as some people may be aware that a week ago, we were scheduled for this particular podcast to be Andy Ferris, the guitar geek. And Andy got in contact with me and said, something's come up. It's a family thing. Can we rearrange? And of course, I just said, yeah, okay, fine. And then I've been so busy this week, I completely forgot to do anything. And 3 hours ago, I mean, amazing. I put out a message to the people that I know and the people they know, saying, I need a guest for the podcast. And Emily said, I'll do it. So thank you so much for stepping in at the very last moment, because that's hugely appreciated.
It worked out well. This is noon in Seattle where I am, so just a nice little lunch break chat.
Good.
I housed the burrito right before this.
Oh, fantastic!
Good thing you can't smell my breath.
You'll be falling asleep 20 minutes from now.
No promises.
Right, well, coming up tonight, we have a news article that broke 3 hours ago, which is Slate Audio have announced their new virtual headphone system. Coming up after that, we've got loads of Fender guitars, new pedal from Jack White, tiniest amp from Hughes and Kettner ever, and of course something in Behringer Corner. This is the Hot Pole Podcast. Roll the intro. So, how has your week been? It's one of the things I ask our guests customarily. How have you been?
It's been good. I've been all right, about as far as an American and COVID United States can be.
Yes.
Just been kind of rearranging my workspace. I filmed a little panel for the guitar.com live conference that's launching tomorrow.
Right.
So that was really cool. I got to have Eric from Living Room Gear Demos on and Grant from Goodwood Audio, and I moderated the panel. We talked about perfecting your pedal board, which was a lot of fun.
Good stuff.
What the hell do I know about guitar pedals, though?
What do you know? She says with a rack of guitar pedals literally behind you.
Yeah.
Yes, I did catch up. I have to admit, I've seen a couple of your videos in the past, but there are so many guitar YouTubers, I can't keep up with everybody. So I've just kind of brushed up a bit today, and you very, very intensely focus on guitars, pickups, pedals. Am I right there?
Yeah, it's been a lot of guitars and pickups lately, especially. It's fun. I think it gets, that's pretty much it. That's the bulk of what it is right now. I do plan on getting into more things. I studied music business in college. I've worked in the music business in different capacities for the past 10 or 12 years. So I really do want to get more into sort of the music business side of the content, because people come to me constantly with questions about little things like performance rights organizations. How do I make money from sync? How do I put my money on YouTube and Spotify? I have my music on YouTube and Spotify. How do I get paid? All these kinds of things.
Yeah.
That and some of those things I've done more than others. I worked in live events primarily. But I just think that would be fun to do. Nice to kind of break up the the gear nerdery and get into what we get the gear for so we can make music and what kind of the business side of that looks like.
Yes, the side that nobody really knows anything about unless you're in it. I have to admit,
it's mysterious.
yeah, I in the past, me and Liam, my regular co-host, we have run a small record label, and you have no idea when you first start just what's involved. It's insane. And that was 10 years ago. The whole thing's different now.
It's so different. It's amazing.
I don't even know where I'd begin. So that's why I'm
a
studio engineer.
10 years ago.
Well, that's true enough. Yeah. I mean, it's simpler now for someone like me who just wants to release some of their own personal material outside of the YouTube thing. But for a band, oh boy, it's a whole different set of tactics. I mean, it was constantly shifting when we were doing it. In the couple of years we did it, it was so different from when we started. But it's that would be absolutely fantastic. And of course, if you have any opinions that don't go with the mainstream, there's nothing wrong with stirring up a little controversy on YouTube.
stirring up some ish, as we say. I don't know if you. I'm assuming you don't want me to cuss.
I'm largely unbothered, to be honest. The audience for this stream is generally 25 plus, so it's not so much of an issue.
I know lots of older people who don't like cussing.
Yes, or at least not on camera. Yes. Generally, my quote-unquote fully produced videos, I tend not to swear, but that's partly because I like to get creative with language. If I can insult someone without using a swear word and be actually far more cutting, I find that a personal challenge.
It's like so many of Gordon Ramsay's insults. I just love them.
Yes, exactly. He's one of my role models for insults. Apart from just the actual swearing, things like there's so much oil on this plate that America want to invade it. That kind of joke. I mean, that's far more cutting than just swearing.
Yes.
Yes.
Looks like a dog's dinner.
Yes.
That's my favorite.
That's a fairly standard one in the UK.
Is it really?
Yeah, it looks like a dog's breakfast.
I never heard that.
Yeah, dog's dinner's. That just means it looks awful.
I've heard wet cat food. I've used that one before. I ever heard Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, it's quite cutting. Yeah. But yes, let's talk about this week's news, because this one is a big one that broke very, very recently. So it's time for the news. And article number 1, of course, is this. There is no news article page about this yet. This is literally the page from Stephen Slate Audio. I got confused trying to search for this because I thought it was Slate Digital, which is their usual company. But this, technically speaking, isn't digital. It's an actual physical thing. And so this that they announced was their virtual headphone system. I don't know what VSX stands for. Virtual something X. But they are headphones. They're headphones that come with a plugin to go with your workstation, so you can make it sound like, apparently you can make it sound like loads of different speakers in rooms. You can make them sound like different types of headphones, which for a mix engineer like me is a huge deal. I'm wearing the Austrian audio headphones right now, but I also have Sennheiser 650s. When I'm not in the studio, these are my bread and butter. I make my living by these. And you can see, if it'll focus on them, just how rusty and battered these things are, because
well loved.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, these things have gone around the world with me, literally, and they look like it. But I was so excited about the concept of these headphones, I bought them.
Already?
They went on sale 3 hours ago, and 2 hours ago I had given away all my money, so hopefully within the next couple of days they'll arrive. So expect a review coming on those very soon, because if I don't make some money back off the YouTube advertising revenue,
yeah. But, I mean, that reminds me of something I learned in studio classes, though. That seems really cool, because we always talked about the problem in studio classes is that here you are filming, here you are mixing and mastering music on this really impressive equipment, this expensive equipment.
Right.
And most people are just listening to music in their car on the radio, like the FM radio or with the little earbuds. You don't really want to mix everything like that.
No.
But to be able to just hear it in the car, especially like they have electric cars, which are quieter. I hope they have a louder car. I want to know what it sounds like in an El Camino.
Right. They do actually have two types of car models here. They've got one they call the electric car, exactly like you said. So I'm guessing it's that, but they've also got luxury SUV, so basically a Mercedes sound system. So doof, doof, doof. But with lots of high end as well, because it's that overly hyped, scooped thing. I mean, that's the thing. I listen in my working life generally to 3 sets of sound. I've got a nice set of monitors in the studio, which I use. I've got those Sennheisers, which I use all the time. And I've got my car stereo in my Skoda, which is actually not bad, but the vocals get lost for some reason on that stereo, and that's with the EQ flat. But that's interesting when I listen back to my own mixes, that if the vocal's not quite cutting, I know that's okay. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they look really pretty as long as you don't do this with them and dismantle them. Apparently they're made of beryllium, which sounds expensive.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah, very fancy. So yeah, like I say, this is easily the most money I've ever spent on headphones, and my God, they better last. They
seriously, yeah.
But
they have like a warranty? I assume they do.
They must do. I hope they do. But yeah, I mean, I spend so much of my time recording and mixing, and mostly mixing recently, to be honest, for obvious reasons. Nobody's coming into the studio. And yeah, to be able to have kind of the best monitoring situation that I could have, I mean, that's kind of priceless. And if that pays for itself by me being able to do, better mixes or less revisions of mixes is an important thing for me. Because
that's the worst part when you put something in the car and you're like, well, why do I have to go back and like remix this thing because it just sounds bad in the car, and you don't know until you get in the car.
Right. I mean, I've kind of got past that point now, kind of. I still sometimes check things in the car and pick up on something, but I've been mixing like an obsessive madman for 15 years or more now. So you kind of get to a point where you know your system. But yeah, it's an interesting one because it brings up the whole conversation of, oh, you shouldn't mix on headphones. You'll have no idea what you're doing, blah, 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 blah. And I mix on headphones all the time. And clients seem happy with the work. But I've been doing it for so long. I know what to expect out of it, but I'll be interested to see the room, the virtual room that you end up, because some of these, it's not just like an EQ profile. Apparently it puts you in the room, which is interesting. So I'll be fascinated to see that. You should use both headphones and monitors. Well, maybe, but the question is why should you use headphones and monitors? I mean, generally that is good advice, but devil's advocate for a second. I mean, if you know how a system behaves and everything sounds right on that system, you should be done. I mean, it's the old, you see NS10s like these in studios, and for me, they're the worst sound in the world. I hate them. I have a pair and I don't use them because I hate them. And but then there are engineers who just know them so well, and those engineers who know them so well can make the sound of hit records, and great for them. And
it's just about whatever works best with your processes, and if doing both works for your processes, if you're in a place where you're able to do both, that's cool. But I mean, these just seem really neat, and knowing how good modeling technology is on like the Strymon Iridium and other guitar effects and pedals and plugins, I have to imagine these are gonna be pretty neat.
I would hope so for the price as well. I mean, if you buy them in America, it's $479 plus all your sales tax and everything where you are. Or apparently there's a rent to own, $40 a month for a year, and then they are yours. And
seems like it's about the same.
Yeah, I think it is about the same, but it's just kind of one of those, it's only $40, it's only $40 kind of things where you go, oh, go on then.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no such plan as far as I'm aware in the UK, which is why I just had to get some stones and just cough up the cash. But it's going to be a very interesting review from me when it comes out, because this isn't something that I've been, given for review. This isn't something I'm being paid to review either. This is literally, I've stumped up the cash.
How do you demo something like that though? Like, how do you really demonstrate it? Because how are you just going to use your words to describe how the things sound, or do you think there's some way?
I think there'll partly be a way that, because it's a 2-part system, because the modeling is kind of the software and then is sent out to the headphones, I'll be able to send a copy of that out to the recording system. And then at least listeners to the video will be able to kind of get an idea. Although I will say in the video that will not be an accurate representation. Depending on what you're listening on, it's not going to be the same, but at least it'll give you an idea.
Yeah.
Because then at least because there's a digital kind of break point, I'll be able to send, something to the viewer and go, well, here's a rough idea of what it does. Don't take this for granted, because if you're listening on headphones that have a big EQ spike or whatever, that's going to get exaggerated. Or because that's the other thing, that I've got the Slate virtual microphones as well, and they're amazing. But the software does half the job. The microphones just have to be really linear and kind of boring and flat, and on their own they don't sound very interesting. But that's the point, is that, like, with something like good old SM57, they've got some real, presence peaks in them, which is cool. That's the SM57 sound. But if you ever try and make that sound like anything else, those peaks, they're not going away. Yeah.
It is what it is.
It absolutely.
Sometimes you want just a flat response, like,
Yes.
All the words.
Let's have a look at the specs. So these are closed backs. That's going to be weird for me. I'm wearing closed backs right now. These are the Austrian Audios. Don't usually like closed backs. Of course, when you're tracking instruments, that's kind of necessary, because you don't want the bleed going over to the, because
everything else.
Yeah, so these are open back, the 650s, and it means that I can wear them for a very long extended period of time, because it's almost as if I'm not wearing them. But I have to be in a room alone with them. They're that loud. I mean, it really irritates people when I'm in the same room as them with those things, and there is no blocking of outside noise at all. I can just have a full conversation with somebody.
That's wild.
I have a feeling.
I don't know if I would like that.
Well, I didn't for the first week, and then 10 years in, however long it's been, I find it hard to live without. But I'm going back to closed back now, so this is going to be really weird for me. I'm probably going to end up shouting at people in the house, just because it's like, the hearing aid syndrome of, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Marty in chat just said it would be nice if Slate throw in a year's subscription to all their other plugins. Black Friday, maybe. These are out conspicuously just in time for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. So
yeah, they are.
Yeah, I may have made a slight mistake by buying these now, but these, it actually says on the side of the Founders Edition, so I wouldn't mind betting they've had a run made, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000, however many units they've had made. And that's the Founders Edition, and then for Black Friday, they're going to get them made cheaper or something? I don't know.
I don't know, but I kind of wonder what the state of Black Friday is going to be in the gear industry this year, because everyone seems to just be having gangbuster sales. Like Fender said, every day is like Black Friday. People like Chase Bliss and like Logitech, and a lot of people can't seem to keep like anything in stock. So normally the things that would encourage a brand to do a big Black Friday sale, I don't think they need it, really. They might do something little, but I don't think we're going to see the same enormous slashes that we've seen in years prior.
Maybe.
So you probably made a good choice to go ahead and buy this now, because who knows how many they actually made and how long they'll be in stock.
Good point. Although I suppose it's also an excuse for hardware like pedal makers to shift anything that's not been selling as well as they'd hoped.
Yeah.
So everything that's been selling really well, no discount for you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and the software
no,
guys,
and nor should they really. The software is
Yeah.
I hope to see some slashes on that.
Oh, me too. I mean, I was going to save my money for Black Friday, but this happened, so I'm just going to be watching Black Friday going, that's nice. Ah, well.
Can't have it all. Can't have it all.
Absolutely. Oh, I pressed the buttons. There we go. You're back now. There we go. So that's that, and I'll let everybody know very soon what they were like. So moving on to guitars. So Fender has a new Brad Paisley Esquire in black sparkle. And notice the pickup selector. Apparently it has a secret pickup.
A secret pickup?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Esquire, of course, to anybody anybody who's not familiar with the Esquire, the Esquire was the Telecaster single pickup model originally. Is that right? Yes.
I don't know if it's the original one, but that sounds right.
As far as I'm aware, that's the case. But yeah, pickup switch, and I'm guessing there's a neck pickup somewhere in there. Or maybe it's a piezo?
Oh, yeah, it's a secret agent neck pickup hidden under the pick guard.
Interesting.
Ooh, so it's just a normal Telecaster disguised as an Esquire.
Yeah. So if you really smack the guitar right near that neck pickup area and you wanted that out of your way, there, you got an answer. Or if you
it's definitely handsome.
I mean, Paisley's not usually my thing. I mean, he's a good artist, but I mean, Paisley, the look. I mean, of course, Brad Paisley's going to have Paisley on his guitar. Why would he not?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, especially
basically he and Prince are really the only people who could probably get away with Paisley on a guitar.
Yeah. I know a couple of hippies who've got like pink Paisley on the guitar, but that just is 1968
cool. Like
defined. But yeah, someone in chat just talking about the headphones for a second was saying, Nicola in chat was saying, what headphones do you use, Emily?
Oh, I mean, right now I just have these Sony headphones that my husband got me. I don't do a lot of like professional mixing. Most of the mixing I would do would just be for like demos that I do, songs that I do. I've done a little bit of remote session work, but that's a little bit less about, making sure a mix is good and just kind of making sure that I sound the way that I want and leave the engineer and producer and artist enough room to make any changes that they need to make. And then for demos, I have these Fender 9 IEMs.
Ah, good. It's always good to have IEMs, yeah. It's funny, just before everything happened last year, I switched from Shure IEMs to the new Sennheiser ones, and it was the weirdest thing because suddenly I could hear my own voice right in the middle of my head. Strangest feeling in the world. So there was nothing weirder than in the middle of a show suddenly becoming very aware of my own voice.
I don't get to use these live very much, but I wish that I could. I like them, but yeah, thankfully the places we usually play have pretty good sound, pretty good monitoring.
Good stuff.
So not that that's really a thing right now.
I had to stop with wedges and outside monitoring because the drummers that I play with, because I play some like real heavy rock stuff, were like I would walk off stage after a 3-hour show and not be able to hear high end for a week.
Yeah, we're not that loud.
Yeah, it's definitely a style thing. I mean, I like the style, I don't like the consequences. So in-ears it was. But yeah,
there's a great moment last time I was on tour with my singer, and she starts a song, and it's the only guitar song that she starts like just on the guitar. And she starts, looks at me and says, "Too loud," and like has to go and turn herself down. I'm like, I don't think it was too loud, Jenna, but okay.
Wow, a guitarist that thinks they're too loud. Wonders never cease.
I know, amazing. Well,
so the other question that
she likes her hearing.
was how do the Slate headphones emulate almost flat headphones like the Beyerdynamics and the Sennheisers? I got news for you, buddy. Beyerdynamics, Sennheisers, not even remotely flat. Not even close. I have been using SonarWorks for a couple of years to try and correct for even these things, which are supposed to be flat sounding headphones. They're not even close. And other headphones that you get, I mean, you're strapping a speaker to your head. How linear do you think that's going to be? So, yeah, I mean, it's always a balance for manufacturers as well between what is actually flat and what sounds nice. Because if you put headphones on that sound really flat, they actually don't sound great. These Austrian audio headphones that I've got on, the Hi-X 55s, these are really flat and they sound kind of terrible. In a good way, they're definitely a mix engineer's headphones because they do not lie to you. If there's something in there and it don't sound great, you know. So you fix it quick, which means that I can send somebody a song that I've mixed on these and they always go, oh, it sounds great. But I'm listening back to it going, oh. So it's an interesting thing. People think the headphones sound nice and flat. No. Humans like high end. Humans like bass. So headphones are made for that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So let's have going back to the Fender Brad Paisley. So I'm guessing this is made in America for £1,200. So what, $1,400? I would hope that's made in the US. Let's see if I can find
Yeah, that's expensive.
For a Fender, yeah.
USD 1,400.
Yeah, for a non-custom shop. Oh yeah, $1,400 for a non-custom shop. Yeah, that's a lot of money. But if it's good, it's good. So I thought I'd do all the guitars kind of in a quick row here. So this is the one that
It's made in Mexico. Sorry.
Well, that's a lot of money for a Mexico
but
one.
so is
it does.
So is the Hirsch signature Strat. I mean, yeah.
Does have the come on, brain. The Seymour Duncans, they will up the price some. Because of course Fender can't really do a discount to themselves on someone else's pickups. Third party stuff always raises the price.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Now here's one. Yeah, I really, really like this. I'm a big fan of the Parallel Universe series. So the Uptown Strat. So are these the wide range humbuckers? Let's find out. So natural finish Strat. I like natural finish Strats. In fact, I got one right there. That's kind of my thing. Natural finish Strats.
Yeah.
That's a beaten up old piece of crap that used to be Candy Apple Red, but hey, that's kind of one of my things. And so, actually, I've got another natural finish Strat that I've just put a tortoise shell pick guard on. How about that? No wonder I like this. It's got Les Paul style controls.
Yeah, it looks limed, like it has a really nice kind of dog hair-esque ceruse sort of finish. So it almost looks like bleached in a way that I find. A static white lacquer finish, yeah.
Oh, hello. So it's got a 24.75-inch scale, so it's a Les Paul scale. It's got PAF style humbuckers. It's got Les Paul style
with coil split too.
Oh, yes, I do like coil splits. My number one Les Paul is coil split because I need that sometimes. Really liking this. I mean, never been a big fan of having the pickup selector switch up in the Les Paul position, but that's just a personal preference thing. But otherwise, I really like this.
I feel like this year Fender and Squier have both done a couple like Les Paul-esque guitars this year. The Squier Paranormal Series Tornado was the other.
Yeah.
I think this looks better.
If it wasn't for the scale length here that they've gone for, they've gone for the Gibson scale, I would think about buying this very quickly. I mean, not that I have the money. I just spent any money that I possibly had on those headphones, but...
You need that extra 3/4 of an inch?
Oh, gee whiz. I mean, it sounds silly, but kinda, yeah. I mean,
that's fair.
Les Pauls and Strats, to me, that's the biggest difference, is that tension on the neck. To me, they play so different, kinda because of that. And
yeah.
As you can see from this, you can put humbuckers in a Strat. You can totally do that. I mean, my number one Strat has humbuckers in, and it sounds like a Strat with humbuckers. And then you play the Les Paul, and you go, "Oh yeah, that's a Les Paul." And I mean, yes, it's mahogany versus the other kind of wood, set neck versus bolt-on. There's all these conversations to be had. It's more than one thing, but feel-wise, that's probably the number one thing to me, is that the strings feel kind of loose, kind of floppy. Which, I mean, if I want to do a solo, then I probably would go for something Les Paul scale, but then I'm not much of a solo kind of guy, and I'm not a big fan of guitars going out of tune when I hit them, and I hit them. So, but for nearly $2,000, maybe more than $2,000, that's that better be good, because that's a lot.
That looks like it's made in America, just looking at it, because it has that different neck plate that I think that their new American series has.
Oh yeah, the Elite one, the curved kind of, so the whole heel's rounded off, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that.
No?
These are made in America. They're made in Corona, California.
Right. I mean, honestly, if I'm that far up the neck, then I'm not really worried about the heel anyway, because I'm quickly going straight back down. But
yeah, no, I mean, I like it. I do like it for fret access. I don't aesthetically, I don't think I love it, or I'm just kind of conflicted about it. Like, I don't think it's that I don't like it. I just think that it's different. I mean, if you're paying this much for a guitar, you're probably not going to want to swap the neck out on it, but what I love about Fender guitars is that they're kind of like Legos.
Yeah.
And you can typically put them together a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, no, that's completely true. I mean, the only difference I can think of here is you would have to drill an extra hole in the neck, because it looks like it should kind of fit. But I mean, that depends on whether you're prepared to do that.
I'm very rarely prepared to do that.
But
I've done it.
That's the other question, I suppose, is I've never really swapped necks on guitars, but surely you can only do it so many times before the screw holes start to wear out and you start having to fill them. I don't know. Because wood, I mean,
I don't know
how many
that.
times? Yeah.
I would say a lot. I mean, it's not like it's going through the same wear that like you open a door 5, 6 to 20 times a day. It's not like it's getting that kind of use. It's like if maybe once a year or once every couple of years you swap a neck. I don't think it's a big deal. And filling the holes and really re-drilling them where they were, really not as big a deal. You just get some sawdust and some wood glue or some dowels and fill in the holes and re-drill them right where they were, and you're in business.
Good point. Well, in that case, I'm going to start swapping necks.
You should. I mean, I have I don't know how accessible it is, but you used it in the picture. This guy.
Oh yeah.
Mustang body it came with the Bronco neck. That was a pretty wild one. And then Sean from Gun Street Wiring, he sent me an actual Bronco body. Now I'm going to get a Jaguar neck for the old Mustang. I'm going to put the Bronco neck on the Bronco body. And I'm going to do some swapping.
Yeah. Oh, Danny in chat just had a very good point, which is if it's a vintage Fender neck where the truss rod adjustment is at the base of the neck, you're going to have to take it off.
Yeah, that's what that is. That's exactly how that is.
Right.
I mean, you could really get in there very, very carefully, but it's not worth the hassle.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
a great point.
That's one of the things that I tend to shy away from vintage Fenders for, is that it's like, if you can't change the intonation on a moment's notice, maybe not.
We're different people.
I don't know. I'm mostly a bass player, so yeah, definitely different people. Because of that, when I do
intonation is a lie.
Well, sure, but
I'm just joking.
Or we could get into that conversation. it's all relative, absolutely. But for me, it's less intonation and more neck relief because I only have kind of small hands, and because of that, I kind of have to have quite low action, so I'm not fighting the thing. And when you've got low action, all it takes is a little bit of temperature from the stage lights, and suddenly the neck's like a banana, or strings are choking, and so I have to have Allen keys on hand at all times. And
I've had to do that.
It's a real fight, and of course, when you can't get to the truss rod, it's like, right, okay, well that's that guitar out of action for the night.
Yeah, that's all good points.
But then I suppose if it's a vintage Fender, you probably would leave a little more action on there and play it as such, because especially with like a 7-something inch radius neck, I mean, you can't have super low action anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, from
it's like 7 and it's like 7.25, right?
That's the
7.5, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So from Fender to Fender again. This is expensive. So the new George Harrison Rocky Stratocaster is going to be very, very expensive. 26,000 euros. Paul Waller, the master builder at Fender, is building these, and pickups hand wound by Abigail Ibarra.
Wow.
Yes, lots and lots of custom shop, and oh my word. So yeah, it's the All You Need Is Love guitar, and the I Am the Walrus guitar as well from the Magical Mystery Tour. It's a reproduction of that, and oh man, I mean, the custom shop stuff is good stuff. That's absolutely a given, but it's a lot of money. I mean, I can imagine these are going to be snapped up pretty quickly by all the blues lawyers.
Yeah, I was about to say, it almost seems terrible to have those hand-wound pickups in a guitar that someone's probably not going to play very much. This is something you put on your wall in like a temperature-controlled guitar case, and like, props to anybody who can afford this, like who wants to pay that much money for a guitar that looks like someone licked down a jawbreaker for 5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a cool look, but
I'm not saying it's a bad look.
It's definitely it's kind of proto-punk in a way, that kind of thing, isn't it? Where it's like, I'm just going to do this. I don't care what this guitar is or anything. I'm just going to do it. And I do like that kind of stuff. But I can imagine some big Beatles fan blues lawyer having several glasses of wine and entertaining their friends in their nice New York apartment playing Wonderwall on this thing.
They would be playing Wonderwall. They'd be playing
Hey Jude.
Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but they'll play that for like 3 seconds and then everybody will be like, play something we know.
Oh, this boomer is dating young women then.
Well, you say that. Wonderwall came out 25 years ago.
Yeah, but the Beatles came out 60 years ago.
Fair enough. All right.
It's still May, December, even if she's 35.
Yeah, sure. Right. So, moving on from guitars to pedals. Have you seen the new Jack White Coppersound pedal?
I've seen it. I don't get it, but yeah, I've seen it.
I think it's kind of cool.
I haven't listened to anything about it.
So it's a
That's steampunk aesthetic.
Yeah, so it's steampunk. It's that kind of Morse code tapper. And from as far as I am aware, it is an octave down, an octave up, and a kill switch. So that's kind of cool. I mean, I like the idea of momentary effects. It's very expressive because you very much have to play it. You can't just leave it on and walk away and just play what you were always playing and let the pedal do it. You've got to do the thing. And I mean,
totally.
It's a cool kind of idea. I can very much imagine Jack White doing this. I mean, he's used things like the Electro Harmonix Pog and the Hog for years. And it's very much part of what I associate with Jack White, actually, is the big, fuzzy, multiple octave thing. I mean, the Digitech whammy's always been part of his sound as well. I found out this week and that the bass part on Seven Nation Army, it's not a bass. It was just his regular guitar with a Digitech whammy an octave down. Always thought it was just a terrible sounding bass.
No, it's just a poorly tracking digital pitch shifter.
Yeah. I just assumed that because it was that kind of lo-fi grungy thing that it was just kind of poorly recorded, but there you go. It was poorly recorded, but for good reason.
That's their sound. That was always the White Stripes kind of vibe.
Yeah. Oh, here's a really interesting thing. This kind of works for the way that I would think. Apparently the kill switch in the middle, you can change to auxiliary mode, which will send the signal through its own effects loop. So you can have crazy effects through the center one and just kill switch them on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That suddenly makes it a little more versatile.
Weird.
If you got big enough boots, maybe you could kill switch two of these at the same time. That starts to get really, performance. I mean, I'm not suddenly going to go.
Why would your foot have to be? I think you could. I think most people could reach. Like I have a size 6.5. I imagine if those are as wide as I think they are, I think you could do 2 at a time.
I suppose the broad tops.
Those have to be next to each other.
Yeah, the broad tops are probably there for that reason. Because I mean, if I'm playing, I could press 2 buttons at the same time. I might kind of put my foot slightly sideways to make sure I get it. Mm-hmm. But if I'm doing a performance with 2 at the same time, because I mean, if you've ever changed 2 pedals at once live, for me, generally it's to change sound to another sound. You kind of look down, make sure you're over the right pedals. You do it once and you move on. Is that?
Yep.
Yeah, same. And so but what you're not doing generally is going like and rhythmically kind of hammering both at the same time.
Yeah. So I'm actually a little bit surprised to see that design because I know they have that stutter switch. Coppersound does. That's like the telegraph style.
Yes.
And they say you're not supposed to use it with your feet. What? Like that's just like I've heard that from multiple people because it's fragile and it's like not supposed to be operated with your foot. I'm sure like everybody and their mother does that with their feet, but
sounds like it might be a disclaimer.
Yeah, it's probably just a cover your ass kind of thing for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would just kind of worry about that a little bit.
I've tapped on a traditional Morse code tapper. As it happens, my partner used to work at the Museum of Science and Industry, so it's very much that kind of thing. But they are supposed to be very gentle because you're supposed to be able to communicate real fast. But they're tough. They're really tough. I mean, I'm not sure if I would have a 250-pound man jump on it, but just pressing it with a foot, I don't think it's going to destroy these things. They're pretty tough.
Yeah. At the same time, I think it's pretty easy to teeter from a light tap or even like a medium hard tap to accidentally losing your balance and putting all of your weight onto it. I think that's equally possible.
Yeah, fair. I wonder if, again, the whole Jack White thing, if he said to them, look, overbuild this. Make sure this is unbreakable. I mean, I would hope so for the price, because these are, for the standard edition, $400, limited edition yellow version, $450. Oof.
It's just like everything that Third Man ever sells, dude. Like,
well, yeah.
I lived in Nashville, really close to Third Man, and it was always so weird to like go in there. And at the time, I think he's diversified a lot, but it really did seem like a Jack White shrine,
right?
And then just how expensive everything was, and how everything had a limited edition, and you'd go in there and you'd buy the stuff that nobody could buy in the UK, and then you'd put it on eBay, and someone in the UK would buy it from you for like $125 and you just paid $18 doing it, and you're like, I guess I get to eat 2 pizzas this week.
Nice. Sounds about right. Yeah.
Sorry to everybody I did that too.
Well, it's business. It's good business. Why not?
It's a free market.
Yeah. If people don't want to pay it, they won't pay it. Someone else will pay 26,000 euros for a Fender.
Oh
so
God,
from a very, very big pedal to a very, very small amp, Hughes and Kettner have just released the Spirit Nano heads. My friend John Brown from Monuments released his video on these today. So these have only just been released. They are tiny. They're about the size of maybe a Boss DS1 with a little more height. And they're
so small.
They're a 50-watt amp each.
50?
It's Class D, like a solid state 50 watts, so it's not super duper duper loud. But I've played one of these at 42 Gear Street this year, and they are so loud for the size. It's crazy. And
wow.
Yeah, I mean they are gonna sell pretty quick, I think. They are just over 1 kilo each. And the funny thing is, they sound, if you just put the headphones on and play, like real amps. It's getting weird now.
That's really cool. Yeah. It's a different technology than it was when we were babes.
Yeah, it's come a long way from my old Zoom 505 pedal.
Oh God.
Yeah, you remember those.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the things like I played the vintage one of these, and the thing that really got me is there's the sag control. And as you turn the sag up, it goes from like Fender Twin all the way through to like Bassman with the drive on 11. And it's suddenly just kind of, you hit it and it squishes. And it's the weirdest thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was absolutely bizarre. And then if I remember rightly, it had a little bit of reverb in the cab model that went through the headphones, and it just sounded like a real amp. Obviously, you didn't get that kick through headphones, but yeah, when we played them to a live. Honest opinion, I heard the metal one, wasn't impressed. The metal one was just... But...
I mean...
But the funny thing is, I
always feel that way about like the metal settings on things.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If they try and make it sound like metal, it never sounds like metal. I played the Spirit of Rock one, and I got a really good metal sound out of that just by having a good rock tone and then playing metal. It's funny, a lot of people miss that distinction, that really the difference between rock and metal is probably about 40 BPM and some double kick. Yes, everybody's going to come after me now. I know I'm exaggerating and joking for the camera, but I mean, again, my mate John Brown from Monuments, you should hear some of the metal sounds he gets, but he has the gain on that rock amp on 2 out of 10. But he just plays like a monster. Like, you can see the strings bending halfway across the fretboard, and you're looking at it going, how are those not breaking? What? But yeah, it's all in the fingers, man. So funny. But I mean, they're less than £200, which, I mean, for the size of them, sounds like too much money. But you should hear one, because, oh boy.
Yeah. It's funny how people feel like small things shouldn't be expensive. It's like, I feel like music gear is one of the only realms where that's still the case. If you see a big cell phone and a small cell phone, I don't think you're going to assume that the small cell phone should be cheaper. I think you might think it should be more expensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's interesting, but that is something that I've noticed guitarists kind of seem to think a lot, from slightly smaller guitars to like the nano-sized pedals. They're like, oh, it should be a lot cheaper, and kind of like, why?
Yeah, listen to it. What does it do? Yeah. I did a mix stream last week. It might have been the week before, because everything's blurring together now. And I was using the big brother of these amps. I've got the Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 in the studio right now, which is a 200-watt solid state amp. And my God, that thing gets loud. And we used it for every single guitar in the track, like 7 guitar layers, and it sounded amazing. It was basically all of these in one. But then the price reflected that. It's like £700, so like more than 3 times the cost. Which, compared to the cost of a valve amp, tube amp, is still not that much. I mean, you want yourself a new Mesa Dual rectifier, what are you paying? $3,000?
Thereabouts? I mean, ultimately you got to make the decision that your ears are making, and compare that to the price, and yeah.
It still makes me laugh how many guitarists just go by brand or go by what they see rather than what they hear. They go like, it's a Fender Twin, it's going to sound good. And I'm like, well, I guess. But for what you're playing, maybe not.
Yeah.
Have you tried this?
That's always the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes me smile after a while.
I mean, I just after a while, like I just kind of learned which brands of amps and which kind of voicings of amps I do like and which I don't like. I know I'll get so much crap for this. I don't like box amps. I keep trying them. And I keep just not vibing with them. It's not the kind of music that I make. And some of my favorite guitarists ever use Vox amps.
Yeah, me too.
It's not right for me, and that's all that matters.
I don't have a Vox in the studio because I've never been able to get a usable tone out of one, but I know some guitarists who swear by them. And for their playing
I like
style,
the way that they sound.
Yeah.
I like the way that they sound. I have the Strymon Iridium, and the Vox is the setting I use the least.
Yeah, because like you said, that sound doesn't work for you. That's fine. That's good. It means that you kind of found a sound. I know loads of guitarists who would kill to have kind of a style to call their own.
Yeah, that's true. He's got to work at it. Play more, practice more.
Yes. Keep playing, stop trying to be like everybody else, and then just look down and go, oh, this is me then. Okay.
Yeah.
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 So, from the mini heads to a mini keyboard, a Japanese company called Pico Pico, very Japanese name, making a Prophet Mini. I don't know how into keys you are, if any.
I don't play them well, but I've played around with some synthesizers and some MIDI controllers, and it's fun.
Right.
And this looks really fun.
Yeah. Well, my favorite keyboards of all time, one of them is the Oberheim OB8, and the other is the Dave Smith Prophet. And the Prophet, the real Prophet, is huge. It's like a 60-pound beast from the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, they sound incredible, though. They are kind of the sound of the early 80s. Because then it went on to the Yamaha DX7 FM synth mid 80s reverb, which I also love, but that's a good way to describe it. Is and so the Prophet was very expensive and still is, and so
I noticed that.
Yeah,
but these are expensive too, but probably not nearly as expensive.
Yes, I mean it's all relative, right? I mean this has got a mini 3-octave keyboard and is about a third of the size of a real Prophet. So it's 4-voice, 37 note. Yeah, 4-voice Prophet. Apparently there is no price that anyone knows of right now. But
I'm seeing the Prophet 5 has a 3,500 tag US, and the Prophet 10 has a 4,300 tag.
Yeah, so that's the full size ones. That sounds absolutely spot on. The Prophet 10 is basically two Prophet 5 sandwiched together. And I always wanted one because they sound absolutely huge.
Yeah.
But as someone who mainly produces guitar-based bands, rock bands, that kind of thing, I can't justify that expense, which is a real shame because they make some great sounds. But I just have to go with like the Arturia software version because otherwise my bank account will die.
Yeah, that's a shame. Start booking more keys bands.
Yeah, we'll get them to bring their own keys in and then conveniently forget to take them home.
People are still making guitar-centric music in 2020. I'm actually a little surprised by that.
Well, I had a couple of clients this year. Not many. It's certainly not in fashion, that's for sure. But yeah, from tiny synths to tiny synth radios. This thing's really weird. So Teenage Engineering, who make the OP1 little pocket calculator synthesizers, which are really cool, have now made a Bluetooth speaker that looks exactly like the old school kind of swinging battery box FM radios.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
I love it.
I like the aesthetic of this thing. But it can do some really crazy stuff. So it's a Bluetooth speaker. and it can do, it's 38 watts per channel stereo, which that between them will give you some real volume. Apparently it can do things like, it's got a 2-hour loop recording facility, so you can loop live radio apparently. You can time stretch and rewind it as well. So we're gonna end up with like this little but virtual like portable boards of Canada type thing. It's gonna get weird. Gonna get weird quick. I mean, if it's got a looper with rewinding and time stretching and Bluetooth, I've got an iPad or an iPhone with virtual instruments on. So I could play these virtual instruments into the looper, make it do weird stuff, record that with a microphone, and hey, there's a Boards of Canada album right there.
My drummer has some weird little like synth thing that he can record loops from the radio, and he can stretch it and stuff. But this guy's expensive.
Yeah, £649 for the gloss red edition, or a little less at $600 for the matte black. So what, $700-800 for one of these? This is not something.
I'm seeing $600. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something you drop the cash on just because you feel like it. Certainly not an impulse purchase unless you're one of those blues lawyers who can afford the 26,000 euro George Harrison.
I think what's even more bananas to me than like the price is that you can get the leather bag for an extra $400 and a remote for $90.
Oh yeah,
$400 for the custom leather bag. Wow.
Ouch.
Gosh. Yeah.
Some people just have money to burn, and some people cater to that. Now let's move on quickly because we've already been going for far too long. So Golly PG have made a master EQ and a dynamic shelving EQ. How pretty is that? I mean, if you're a mastering engineer, yes, but the mastering engineer, you're looking at over €3,000 for each one of these. But as a mastering engineer, you need real good stuff if you're going to go analog.
Yeah.
And generally, if you want to pay the bills, a lot of mastering engineers I know do go analog because it helps justify the expense of mastering.
Oh my gosh, just the colors on this thing alone, it just is very seasonally appropriate.
1974 personified.
It is. It looks like fall in a box. Autumn, I'm sorry. Autumn in a box.
Yeah. Oh, I understand the terminology on the other side of the pond where you have those different words. But yeah, I mean, this thing is beautiful. It's got the proper mid-60s style VU meters there where the needle just goes straight up and down. I mean,
I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, each one of these, it's at least a 6-week build time, roughly €3,500 each. Oh my word. Go out and buy one tomorrow.
Sometimes you look at a thing and you're like, well, that's just what it costs.
Yeah, I mean, if the whole thing's hand-wired, and it will be, then yeah, wow. But yeah, from the ludicrously expensive to not too expensive, Black Lion Audio have made Mark II versions of their Neve 1073 half-rack preamp and their API B12A Mark II. So these are respectively $450 and $400, which isn't cheap for a single channel preamp. But honestly, that could be worse for what it is. I've seen single channel preamps that cost a lot more than that. And Black Lion Audio makes some really good stuff. So many times I've been this close to sending half of my studio gear to Black Lion to modify it, because that's what they used to be famous for. They'd take they take things like, the racks you get with Pro Tools. The older racks with Pro Tools, the silver face ones, they're not very good really, but you buy them because you have to, because Avid, because Pro Tools. You can send them to Black Lion and they will take them apart, take the bad parts out, and put like real pro level stuff in and ship it back to you. And they've done they've done that for like Grammy winners. They know what they're doing. They do it right. But yeah, they've started making these half rack preamps, which I can see myself having a nice little kind of row of these. But then the question is, where would I put a half rack. Because it seems kind of silly. Most of my studio is all 19-inch, usual rack stuff. Because that's what you do. Because that's what everything comes as.
Yeah, you gotta buy 2 of them then.
Yeah, but then what do you do? Because these panels don't look like you can just kind of cut half off, and I don't really want to get the Dremel out on this thing I just spent $400 on. Or maybe I do.
No, I have no idea, honestly.
Yeah.
Rack gear is not my forte.
Funnily enough, it should be my forte, but it kind of isn't. I've been software all the way, which is unusual, but I don't know. I'm hard-headed in a way.
Software is getting really good.
It really is.
You have more things.
I started going the software route about 15 years ago when it wasn't so good, but I was like, I'm doing this. I'm gonna learn it all.
Yeah. It's only gonna get better.
Yeah, and funnily enough, here we are.
It's only gotten better.
Yeah, certainly has.
And now you know how to do all of it.
Well, some.
The free stuff, sometimes you just need to dip your toe in.
Yeah.
And it's good that there's free stuff.
Even some of the free stuff out there is better than the paid stuff back when I started, that's for sure. Yeah, long way. But yeah, it's time for our last article of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for Behringer Corner. Every week we usually have an article on something from Behringer, the cheap, friendly German crap. And so their version of the ARP 2600 is now in production. So kind of looking forward to that, yeah. Because from what we were saying about synths being really expensive, Behringer, actually Mr. Behringer, or should I say Dr. Behringer, I believe, Uli Behringer himself, the guy, is a massive synth nerd. And so now he owns all the factories in China that make all this stuff. He's like, I have all these factories. They make all these parts. All these parts go in synths. We're going to make cheap synths. And so they are. And they're making like the ARP 2600 was the synth sound of the mid-70s. And so I think the price that I saw somewhere as an indication was something like $400 to $500 for one of these, which compared to a
100?
real,
wow,
not 1,000, 100. That's the thing about Behringer.
How do they make it that?
That's the question. But
doing something.
As far as I'm aware, the reason they can do them that cheap is they own the factories, not just the factories that build them, but the factories that make the components. They own it all. They own the full stack.
Yeah.
So they're not paying anybody.
That vertical integration.
Yep, that's exactly it. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. So they don't have to pay anybody for any of the pieces. I mean, they pay for raw materials, and then over time it turns into an ARP 2600. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of any other company in the tech industry that has complete vertical integration. And
no, United States, we try to make people not do that.
Yeah, well,
we find it bad for competition. I think Apple tried to do it. I think that's something that they've tried to do.
Apple,
I think a bunch of them have tried and then have been kind of pulled apart at various points in the process.
Yeah. I mean, Apple, they're an interesting case because they have so much cash, but they still refuse to do fabrication. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they have enough money. They could just go and buy factories that build faster than, TSMC and Samsung and all that kind of stuff. But they don't.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe they're worried about the government coming in and being like, stop it. You're going to have to break this down. I think Microsoft or IBM, didn't they get kind of dismantled by the government years ago?
Microsoft, I remember being involved in a big antitrust lawsuit, but it wasn't they didn't have the hardware integration side of things. They were just, Windows was everywhere, so the government were like, yeah, you can't do this.
Yeah.
But it's funny that Apple are now like way bigger than Microsoft were at the time, and the government have said nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Not yet.
Isn't it fascinating? Or like I do remember.
Yeah, it's unpredictable.
Yeah, that was the news. I do remember that the whole Microsoft thing. They had to split the company in two, so they just shaved off the smallest part of whatever was kind of useless and made that be its own company, and then said, "Yeah, there we go. We split in two. Are you happy now?" Strange. So that was the news, and that took longer than expected. But thank you for sticking with us. That was a very interesting episode of the news because we had a lot to cover, and we had lots to talk about. Now, questions from the chat, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got any questions for Emily, get them in now. Now is a good time. So while they are flying in, I'm going to ask you the usual question that I ask everybody. How did you get into making YouTube videos and doing what it is that you do?
Well, I mean, I've been playing guitar since I was 8. I went to school for music business, played in some bands. And as far as the YouTube stuff goes, I just kind of got back into pedals around 2016 when I kind of had the time and had the money to sort of go into electric guitars and stuff like that more. So I started following these channels. I started, befriending some of the people who did this, like Ryan Burke from 60 Cycle Hum.
Right.
And there weren't really a lot of women doing this, and I really wanted to kind of add to that. And I was kind of inspired by like She Shreds Media, Ann Silikowski, Megan L, and a couple other people, women especially, who do gear demos. Right. And I remember just getting so mad at somebody in particular for doing this whole guitar YouTuber thing. It didn't have any women in it. So I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm just gonna start my own channel. Have fun ignoring me. So I kind of did it out of spite, and I just had a lot of fun. I think I just hit 3,000 subscribers, so still a ways behind you. But I've been doing this for just over a year. Wow. I have the benefit of my husband used to be a co-owner in a live streaming company back in Nashville. Like the idea was they would live stream concerts. So we had a lot of cameras, and because of the music stuff that I've been doing for forever, we had like microphones. I bought a cheap lighting rig. And I've just been kind of figuring it out as I go, and making changes to the format every once in a while, and seeing what people respond to and seeing what I enjoy doing.
Good stuff. I mean, that's exactly. I mean, I can't think of any better way to do it, to be honest. It's just, why not? I like this. I want to be represented. I mean, the whole women in not just guitars, but music in general is vastly underrepresented, I think. I did a degree in music production way back in the Stone Age. And there were 100 of us in the year, and there were 3 women and only 2 graduated. Mm-hmm. Which actually statistically works out because we had percentage-wise the same number of men dropped out, but number-wise way more. But yeah, but one of them I know still works in the industry, so that's good. But
I think part of what it is in terms of production and studio work is that women are generally socialized to care less about technical things.
Yeah,
like if the car breaks down, typically it's the man in the family who's been socialized to fix it. Same with like appliances and electronics. So it's just I think that it kind of took a while for me to realize, why the hell can't I do this? Just because I've never done it, just because I don't see a lot of other women doing it, that they have always existed. Women have always been a part of every aspect of the music industry, from the technology to the performing to the business side. You look at like Sylvia Massey or Susan Rogers with Prince, and we've always been here, just kind of in smaller numbers and maybe a little bit less visible. So it's been really an adventure. But yeah, there's a lot of, I think, sociological reasons that there's still not quite as many, though there are more women going into this, and a lot of them tend to do it at a bit of a later, like we don't have a head start like some of the guys do. Like there have always literally been programs in the United States. I think Boston College has one. It's just kind of an example. It's like a sped up engineering program where you can get your master's in one of several engineering fields. And it was designed for people, namely women, who went into like a liberal arts field or like a fine arts degree.
Right.
And just because they felt kind of pressured into it, realizing that I've always been good at math, I've always been good at science. Why am I not? Why didn't I do this in the first place? So that's always been just kind of a thing.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, I suppose that's the thing that still needs to change is the younger people of what are you going to do for a living, and then we subtly get pushed one way or the other. Yeah, I very nearly went into chemical engineering, and at the very last minute realized that you could put music and computers together and that could be a job. And oh my God.
Yeah.
But I think in a way that I was on the cusp with the UK, especially, that society wise, I was doing a thing that wasn't the done thing. But if I had less kind of independent, no, I'm going to do this, then the men were supposed to go off into engineering. The women were supposed to go off into liberal arts. Generally, I mean, it is vast kind of swathes of simplification, but generally speaking,
totally.
I think it's but it is really interesting to me that my partner Mickey, she did a degree in English, but she always wanted to be in science and did a conversion degree to be a scientific master's in animal behavior. And then we both ended up working for the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds for years. And but then I always did this on as well, and now I do this all the time. But it is really interesting to me how we get pushed one way or the other, but hopefully things are slowly changing. That especially in the kind of the modern internet era, if you see people doing something and go, I want to do that, then people are much more likely to go, yes, do that than ever before.
That's exactly right.
And so I
someone else who is like me and has similar background and experiences as me is doing this. Why the hell can't I? That's exactly right. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think it's brilliant that you're there as a leading light. And honestly, I mean, you say you're further behind me. I mean, but after the end of my first year, I was nowhere near where you are now. So
yeah, it's been kind of it seems to be a little bit of exponential growth. It was a slog to get to that first 1,000. I got to that at May, and I've gotten the past 2,000 in the past 5 months. So it's been growing more than twice as quickly in the second in the months 12 to 18 that it did in 1 to the first 8 or whatever.
There's a lot to be said for visibility as well, because once people see you once or twice, I think if you're doing a good thing, they want to see you again. And
I hope so.
Yeah, well, the proof is in the numbers. The exponential growth is there. That I was introduced to your stuff through Andy Ferris, and because I don't watch a huge ton of guitar YouTube videos because I'm in it. I do it. There's only so much more I can take, right? But I watched some of your stuff before, and I will definitely be watching more of it, because I very much enjoyed what I saw, and it's not quite what I do, so there's not a huge overlap. But that's the niche case thing. That's the odd one out thing for me. But I think, as far as I can see, doing the right thing of doing what you want to do the way you want to do it. And if there's any lesson that I think we can give to anybody else, it's do that.
Just start the thing. Just start, work out the issues later, fine tune things. But if you're always waiting until that you can do it perfectly right out of the gate, you're never going to do anything.
Yes, absolutely. If there's anything I learned from editing my own videos, it's if there's anything that's not right with your videos, you'll see it over and over and over.
Oh my gosh. My big thing that drives me nuts is if I go between takes, at the end of a take, I'll be like, well, all right, see you in a second. And then the first thing I'll do when I come back, I'm like, all right. I'm like, just stop it, Emily.
Yeah,
stop saying all right.
My thing for the past 6 months has been going, so. And so I end up going, so, about 6 times in every video. And I've had people start commenting on videos. I'm like, oh God, I'd better stop doing that.
Sometimes you're like, I gotta stop doing it, and then sometimes you're just like, well, maybe it's just my thing, and it's just my personality, and maybe I shouldn't force myself to not do the thing. I don't know. You gotta figure it out.
Absolutely. So, questions from the chat. A very technical one from Marty V. Do you do your own routing, guitar body cavities?
No. I don't do. I usually buy things already routed.
Right.
I don't actually have a router, though I have access to them. So it would be kind of like hand dremeling into a body, and that just No, I don't do that. I mostly work in electronics, and I have a guitar project I'll be doing like the finishing and assembling of, and that's about as far as I've taken it so far. I just don't have a lot of space to have a workbench. I've been meaning to do like some woodworking classes,
Right.
But just haven't really had the time.
That's absolutely fair. I honestly, I don't either. It's one of the few things that it's not that I'm afraid of it, but I know that whatever I do is permanent. So if I go too far with something, it's kind of hard to undo it, or at least, you need a lot more skill to kind of undo it. If I'm going to have pickups, size of routing or whatever changed, I take that guitar to my luthier friends and go, please do this. Because like, it's the one thing you can screw up. I don't know if you've seen Andy's recent video where he's put a fuzz pedal into a guitar. He put the whole damn pedal in.
I saw some of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good example of why I don't do routing, because my word, he screwed that up. But with the aesthetic of that guitar, it kind of works. But I don't have any guitars that kind of fit that thing. And it's like, oh,
no coming back from that. No coming back from that.
It's like, yeah, that was really funny, but oh god, no. Yeah. I mean, I
try not to do non-reversible modifications,
right,
whenever possible.
I've become less afraid of that over the years, but the one thing is like, if it's woodwork, I don't want to do it myself because, like I said, I'm not good at it. I'm not an artist of any kind in that way, really. I can't draw within the lines. If you get what I mean, I'm 30 something years old and I still can't draw within the lines. So if I can't do that, I can't do woodwork straight. If anyone's seen my woodwork, they will attest to that. It's oh boy, no. Some things are fixable, says Joe in chat. Yeah, some things are fixable, but you've not seen my woodwork. I once made a computer case out of wood. We put it in, and 3 days later, it was gone. So I kept looking at it going, oh god, no.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah. What was the other question? So, question from Al. Besides guitar floor processing, do you play through any rack mount processors?
I don't have any rack mount gear period at the moment, and I have not had it. It's something I'm open to and interested in, but it's such a large financial investment and a storage nightmare. I live in a townhouse.
Right.
So that's where all of my gear kind of has to live, in this little like 10 by 12 foot room. And I have to fight to find space for the amplifiers. So rack mounted gear, probably not. Plugins, I've done some. I'm mostly just kind of built-in plugins that are like compressors and limiters and expanders, but a little bit of reverb here and there. But mostly I just kind of stick with the guitar pedals.
Fair enough, if it's a format that works for you. I mean, I keep thinking about going the other way. I've mostly got rack mounted stuff, and it's only in the last 3 months that I've even got a few guitar pedals, to my shame. I have a small amp collection, but being a studio guy, I have the luxury of having the speaker in another room and being able to turn it to 10 and not die.
Yeah.
So where everybody else is like, I need a distortion pedal, I'm like, JCM 800 gain 10. So it's only recently that I've got things like a DS1 and a Metal Zone, which actually, fun tip, Metal Zone, best bass distortion ever.
It's underrated.
Oh, very much so. I mean, Brian Wampler put a video out about the Metal Zone today, and I found it really fascinating that, just sticking it in the front of a Fender preamp, no wonder it sounds bad, because reasons that Brian will explain. But if you use it in the right setting and don't just put the distortion on 12 and the mids on 0, then they're actually not that bad. And
gotta know how to use them.
Absolutely. So that's always been my thing, really, is get a thing and get the best out of that thing. Know the thing, learn the thing. Rather than having 1,000 things, have 10 things and learn what they do right. And so that's the nerd in me. And I don't know, that's just kind of I feel like I'm getting way off track from so the whole pedals thing is I've got into that recently, and I'm thinking about moving into getting things like the JHS color boxes, if you've seen those.
Yeah, like the Neve preamp in a box.
Yeah, because that's the kind of thing that in the studio I can use that a lot. If I'm using it on guitar, great. If I'm not using it on guitar, oh look, a microphone, a Neve preamp, click. It's like, it's the kind of thing where you go, oh, that's so expensive. Yeah, but it does more than one thing.
Yeah.
Which means that
I think a lot of people bought that to just put it on their pedal boards because it was a cool thing from JHS and they didn't really know what it was or what it did and weren't really happy with it. I'm like, well, you got to understand what it is. You can't just get it because it's new and shiny and pretty. You have to like understand why and how and what.
Kind of works out though the other way for like eBay fiends like me, where I'll keep an eye out on eBay now and someone will be like, oh, I tried it for my pedal board, I don't like it. I'll be like, I'll have that. Bargain.
It's like once I saw a reverb.com ad or something for the Maris Enzo, and they're like, I hate this pedal and this pedal hates me, and I have it. I'm like, I love this pedal. I don't know what's wrong with y'all.
Which is that the white one, the Enzo? I'm trying to think.
No, it's the gold one. The gold one. Synthesizer, pitch shifter, arpeggiator, and like a nice, really lo-fi delay. Like I have the 4 preset switcher because I use so many of the different settings in my live shows now.
I've just done a quick search. It was the Polymoon I was thinking of because I had the Polymoon for a very short amount of time, and I got some wonderful sounds out of the Polymoon. Unfortunately, it was a lone unit. I was doing a job for 2 notes, so it had to go back. But oh, what a sound that was! And yeah, I keep thinking about pedals like that, but then it's like, but the problem with being a studio guy is that I have to spend money on the everything. Sometimes I look at like guitar YouTube channels, I'm a little jealous because like if you have money to spend or you have companies to work with, it's guitars, it's pedals, it's amps. Yeah, and that's great.
I've had all of those things said to me.
Absolutely. And I've had a little bit of that as well, but for me it's also mics, bass stuff, synth stuff, drum stuff, cabinets. And the list goes on and on and on. It's like, how do you afford all this? And the secret is I don't. That's why I live on cheap food. And then save up my money and buy things like stupid pairs of headphones.
Yes. It's not stupid if you love it.
Well,
it's like I put one of my dumber mods that I've done is I put a set of Josephina hand-wound Strat pickups in the Squier Paranormal Series Cyclone. I'm like, I'm going to put pickups in this guitar that cost more than the guitar costs because it's going to make me play them more.
That's amazing.
Like, I don't care if this is weird or stupid, but like I'm going to do it and I really am happy with it.
Well, if it's got some personal satisfaction to you, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
I think
totally.
I would
what other people think.
I'd much rather have $100 guitar that I enjoy than a $3,000 guitar that just sits in the case and doesn't get enjoyed.
Yeah. It's like don't buy vintage, like old vintage gear without a scratch on it because that means nobody ever played that guitar. And why didn't they play it? Maybe there's just something about it that's not vibing with anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. My number one guitar, I wish I had it here. It's at the studio. It used to be a Sun Mustang, which is not a Mustang. It's a Stratocaster copy. But Sun couldn't use that name for whatever reason. And it used to be Candy Apple Red. Now it's natural finish. Now it has humbuckers. Now it has an Evertune. Now it's got Wilkinson hip-shot locking tuners. Now it's got, everything's different, but it plays wonderfully and it's my guitar and I've had it for 24 years and it's still
amazing.
My guitar. And that's the thing is that no matter what I've done to it, it's the personal touch and I play that probably more often than my most expensive guitar, which is this lovely green thing, which is a great.
That is so green.
Oh, it is. It's a lovely guitar. It's a PRS Tremonti single piece quilt top. It's a beautiful guitar, and I do play it. I love it, but I love my guitar, quote unquote, more. And it's interesting that the guitar itself, we bought it secondhand at a guitar shop when I was 10 years old for then £70.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it wasn't great, but it was mine. And now it is great.
You put the work in it.
Yeah.
You invested yourself into this guitar, and that's why you love it.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm more known for bass than guitar, and my number one bass is behind me. This started off life as a Squier vintage modified. And now it's actually Adam Steele branded. If it'll focus. Yeah.
Man of Steel. Well done.
So it's another one of those where it's got Wilkinson tuners apart from the Hipshot drop tuner. It's got
a brass nut.
Yes, brass nut. Good spot. Yeah. Brass nut, new bridge, Goto bridge, DiMarzio Ultra Jazz pickups, John East preamp. Yeah. So yeah, sure, it's a Squier. Yeah, sure. It was.
I don't like when people like foo Squier guitars. I've gotten a couple comments like that. I'm like, have you played a Squier lately? They're freaking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, after I'd had it for 6 months, that bass, it was starting to play like a dog. But it turns out all that had happened is in the factory, someone had over tightened the neck a little, and there was a bump in the frets. So I took it to a luthier, who then leveled the frets. Problem gone. That's it. That's all it took. That's all it took.
Or like an $85 solution.
Exactly. But it's not a solution that I, as a non-luthier, knew about or knew what to do with. And I think there's a lot to be said for people with the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
I sometimes wish I had more of, quote unquote, the knowledge with guitars than I actually do, especially on the physical side. I'm an electronics nerd, production geek, and I do enjoy that kind of stuff, but when it comes to the actual wood, I can look down a neck and go, that's kind of straight or that's kind of not, but beyond that, the real voodoo. I'm just like, no.
Part of why I got into all that stuff is I got so tired of like taking my guitars in to other people who would then, frankly, sometimes I'd say like 60% of the time the dudes were freaking great, and then 40% of the time I would just get like talked down to so badly. Like I wanted vintage style tuners to put on a guitar, and the guy kept saying, well, I don't know why you would want that. Like, I don't know why you would want that. I'm like, because it's what I want.
Yeah.
Because it's what I prefer on my guitars. And why would you want to swap out the pickups? Because I do, man. I'm just like paying you to do the thing. So I just kind of said, screw it, and started doing it myself. I learned how to solder. I learned how to do some basic woodworking. I put a lot of time into learning how to do those things. Because I really just got so sick of like dealing with other people about it.
Well, good on you. And we need more people like you in the community. Absolutely. So that's probably a really good note to wrap up the podcast on. Emily, thank you so much for coming on tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm just so proud to be here.
Anytime. So check out Emily's channel, Get Offset, and the Get Offset podcast, which last week I saw it was Mrs. Smith. That's gonna be a heck of a listen.
It's funny.
So yeah.
Depends on how you feel about Antifa, I guess.
Oh well. Yes, being British, I am slightly away from a lot of that madness, thankfully. But yeah, it's slightly. I say because politically we can be closer than you think. Sometimes it can be, it can be dismaying. But yeah, I mean, I'm nearly an hour's drive away from the studio, and I'll be in tomorrow. So on the drive tomorrow morning, I will be listening to that podcast, and I'll leave a link in the description for anybody else to check that out as well.
Yeah, I had to put myself on mute while I was recording it because sometimes Mrs. Smith would just go off, and I would just be like cackling.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I love to listen to. I'm gonna have to be careful not to crash tomorrow then if I'm laughing too much.
Yes, please don't crash, please.
Oh no, that would be bad. So I'm going to try and not do that. But yes, I will be very much amused by the podcast, I'm sure. And so everybody else, check that out. Go and watch Emily's material and subscribe, and actually go and watch this stuff. Don't just hit subscribe because you can, because that sounds silly to say. But so often in the past I've seen channels where they suggest to go and subscribe to somebody else. Suddenly the subscriber channel, subscriber number rockets, the number of views don't, and then YouTube don't look upon that favorably. And I've been the butt of that at least once, where I got a bit of a surge and then nobody watched stuff because it was people who weren't really interested, and then everything went bad for a while. So yeah, go and actually check out Get Offset. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching or listening on iTunes and Spotify. Tell your friends, hit the like button, leave us a review on iTunes if you would be so kind, because that helps us to propagate to more. And we'll be back here Thursday, 8 p.m. next week with Andy Ferris, the Guitar Geek, who hopefully will actually be there next week. So I wonder if that's going to end up being the running joke. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks again, Adam. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Cheers. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Hey, everyone. That might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server. Link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Hot Pole Studios. See you there.